Hi guys, welcome to this episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia and I'm coming to you as always from the south of Germany, from Munich. Today is Sunday, it's the 12th of January 2020 and I am just so happy to be talking to you guys again about some yarn, some knitting, some spinning, possibly even some crochet today. So welcome if you're a new viewer and of course welcome back if you're returning. I'm recording this intro for like the 10th time because apparently once again I have forgotten how to do this. It's not like I've done it almost 200 times. Oh well. Maybe the fault is that today I'm not having any coffee. You guys, I'm drinking tea. And I mean, when does that ever happen? I'm not sure who I am and what happened to regular Julia, but apparently I drink tea now. Yeah, I know, shocking. I know. Anyways, I thought that this was going to be a very short episode because I still haven't really had my crafting mojo and I felt like I wasn't making progress on anything, but I have pulled out a couple of projects and we'll have some stuff to talk about. I also have a bit of spinning if I don't forget to show it to you, which happens regularly, and some stash acquisitions with a story behind them. So I think we should just jump right in. For those of you who don't know, I don't do any show notes, but I have pretty good Ravelry project pages. So I will link those right underneath this video and you will be able to find anything you want there in terms of needle size, designer, pattern names, sizes, yarn, colorways. I try to put all the information in one place because it just makes a lot of sense to me, and that way not only you as viewers can look stuff up, but also other people who may be making the same projects. And yeah, it just, I think, is the best way of sharing that information and also making it somewhat manageable for me. So, before we jump in, maybe a quick note about what I am wearing. I am wearing a sweater that I don't wear often enough, to be honest. This is the Eri sweater, E-R-I sweater by Isabel Krämer. It's a beautiful good design, even though it does blow out my camera, so you can't really see all the detail. But it's got beautiful cables and a bit of like a lace panel and some textured stitches, and I just pulled this out of my wardrobe today and I don't know why I never wear it. It's such a beautiful sweater. I think it's just a little bit different to the sweaters that I usually make because it's kind of fitted. It's more like a classic knit sweater look with the cables, and I don't know about the color either, but it's actually such a well and nice fitting sweater. So I'm thinking I need to wear it more. So yeah, that is that. Let's just talk about some whips because no, I didn't finish anything this week and I'm not really close to finishing anything either. I've just been kind of procrastinating and working on things a little bit here and there. But one thing that I've been working out on and enjoying a lot, and I haven't shown this to you in, I think, months, is my scrappy granny strap blanket. Some of you may not even know that I have one. This is actually the second granny strap blanket that I'm doing. The first one I did the granny square, like one giant granny square. And then I think about, I don't know, at least a year ago, if not two, I cast on for the granny strap, and I don't know, I haven't really been working on it a whole lot regularly, but at the moment I'm really enjoying it. So this is going to be hard to show. But can you see this is kind of how much I have done? Excuse me, I just moved my entire camera. Let's try that again, shall we? So I will try to show you my entire blanket, which is kind of hard, but this down there is where I started. So you can see I've made quite a bit of progress. This is not like a queen size huge blanket, but it's big enough to be a comfy couch blanket or whatever whenever it's done. And yeah, I really like it. I am basically doing the pattern by Addict24, which I think a lot of people are using. It's just a very basic crochet pattern. I have no idea about crochet, so please don't ask me anything about the details. All I can really crochet is like granny squares, granny straps, and I used to do like hats, but I would have to look it up. But anyways, here we are. I think last time I showed it to you, I was down to this blue, red, self-striping, whatever that is. So I've made quite a bit of progress, and I've just been enjoying putting in these colors. They've just been really fun. It's just such a different thing to knitting, and a lot of times I don't feel like it, but lately I've just really enjoyed picking some fun colors, especially because I still have some beautiful minis that I was given by a friend and viewer of the podcast, I don't know, a couple of months ago. And I've just been putting them into my blanket, and I really love it. I really love how colorful it is. When I first started this, I actually had the plan of kind of doing more pastel colors, but I abandoned that plan pretty quickly and then just jumped straight into all the colors. And I love how colorful this is. These colors are just really making me happy, and I think this is just a project where you can do all of that and do all the crazy colors, and it usually looks pretty nice anyways. So I'm just using any kinds of sock yarn scraps that I have lying around, some mini skeins. The ends you see, they have been woven in. I just need to clip them eventually. So I do magic knots, but I don't trust them. So I do magic knots and then I do weave them in as well. And then I just never cut them off. But essentially, this will be done in terms of ends very, very quickly. So yeah, that's my crochet blanket. I'm using a 4.0 millimeter needle, just a very standard one. I've heard that like the ergonomic hooks and stuff are way better. So if you have any sort of feedback on that, if it makes a difference, do let me know, because I might be tempted to invest in a slightly nicer hook than this, which I think I got for like €3 from my local yarn store, which sadly doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, I've been working on this and it's been bringing me a lot of joy, and it's just such a mindless project. And yeah, that is my granny strip. But I also have been working on some whips, and I think part of why my knitting mojo is a little bit still missing is just the fact that, I don't know, I've been working on all these big projects and I'm not really making any progress. So let's talk about them. So in my sock bag, I have my Hermiones Everyday Socks, which is a free pattern by Erika Lüder. And you may remember I'm knitting these out of a Schoppel Zauberball, which is this yarn. It's a unplied sock yarn, so it's basically a singles yarn. This is what it looks like. The colorway is this one. Not gonna try to pronounce it, but it's colorway number 2400. And since talking to you last, I have finished the first sock minus the heel. So I knit these toe up, and I'm going to put in the heel later, because I do want to put in the heel from this yarn, but not necessarily, I didn't necessarily want to put it in the color where I left off. So if I had put the heel in right after finishing the cuff, it would have been this super bright light gray, and I'm not sure if I want a light gray in these moody socks. So I will add the heels later, which is really good, because that way I can decide later if those are going to be gift socks or if they're going to be for me. Depending on where I put the heel, I can still kind of vary the sizes. So the first one is done, and you can see the Hermiones Everyday Sock pattern. I think it shows up quite nicely, even though I am a little bit sad that this first sock is very, very dark. But oh well, as you can see, I ended on this light gray, and I really wanted to have this light gray also in the second sock, which is why I made them a little bit shorter. And I have since started the second sock. Not that I've done much progress, but here we are again. Toe up, Hermiones Everyday Sock, nothing super special. I'm using my usual 2.25 millimeter or US size 1 needle, and I'm doing 64 stitches. So that is my sock project. I feel like I've gotten quite a bit done on it, but somehow these are not super exciting to me right now. I don't know. I always want to knit all the socks except for the ones that I have on my needles. Maybe it's not just me. Who knows? I have also been working on some sweaters. So first up is this one, which is the childhood sweater by Anke Strick, who is, I believe, a German designer. And first of all, I have to apologize to you guys because last week, just by not thinking and just blurting out whatever came to my mind, I talked about this as my tent, and I realized that that is not a very nice thing to say. And in terms of size, inclusivity, and all of that, that was kind of thoughtless. So I'm sorry about that. I usually try to be sensitive and careful about talking about sizes and stuff. And if I made anyone feel bad, I'm really sorry. But this is it. And the reason why I called it a tent is that it is just turning out bigger than I had anticipated, which is not the fault of the pattern, but entirely my own, because I am very relaxed when it comes to gauge, and of course that matters. But like I said, this is the childhood sweater. It has this beautiful kind of funnel neck. It's not a turtleneck, it's a little bit wider, and of course you can also fold it over, which looks quite nice. So this is going to be the interesting part, how this wears and how much I will like wearing this. And then this just has a really interesting construction with a ton of short rows, a saddle shoulder, but it's a really cool construction. I really enjoyed working it up. And as I mentioned last week, instead of then working flat for the armholes, I decided to add in a steek. So since talking to you last time, I have actually picked up the steek stitches. So instead of doing like a crochet stabilizer, I did the knitted version, which is quite easy. And if you have questions about that, I'm sure you can find some instructions for that on Google. I'm not actually sure where I got that from. I think I may have gotten it from Ellie of Skandir, but I'm not 100% sure. But it's just, for me, it's a little bit easier and neater than doing it with a crochet hook. So essentially, this is ready to be cut open whenever I feel like it. And since I'm finishing the steek and therefore finishing the armholes, now I'm just working in the round. So it doesn't look dramatically different from what I showed to you last week, but you can see the stitch marker is where I was last week. And basically it's just a lot of knitting in the round, very mindless. I've been throwing in a tiny bit of decreases, but essentially this is just going to be a very mindless knit from now on. So that is that. I measured it, and it turns out that I have like 30 centimeters at least of positive ease, which I think is 12 inches. So that's a bit more than I had anticipated. But I think it will be quite nice. I have no idea how this is going to fit, but I think it could be a really cool sweater. I really like the yarn, and I have enough yarn, so I don't have to worry about running out if I'm knitting a bigger size or anything. The yarn that I'm using is a Jamieson 2-ply jumper weight, which I have here on a cone. This is colorway or shade FC6. And this cone had about 500 grams of yarn on it, so I am definitely not running out of yarn on this one. I get these cones, you can get these straight from their website, and I just think they're really cool because if you want to knit sweaters, this yarn usually comes in 25-gram increments, which is great for color work, but you need quite a lot of these little balls if you want to knit a sweater, and then it can get kind of pricey. So I like these cones. I'm so sorry. This is the podcast of weird interruptions and camera crashes, and apparently now I'm sneezing. Oh, well, let's have some tea and move on, shall we? So my last whip that I'm going to show you today is again another big sweater project. This is my yellow sweater. It's knit out of Swedish yarn. This is by Ölcentrum, which is in Sweden. And yes, my cake is looking very, very, very wonky. This was one of the very first cakes that I made with my new ball winder, which I got ages ago. But I just decided to try it out and wind these big cakes. And it's a little bit messy, but it works just fine. So this is Ölcentrum yarn, which I think is classified as a sport weight, even though I think you could knit. I'm kind of knitting this more to like a sport 2 fingering weight gauge. I've seen people call this DK weight, so apparently the jury is out, but I think it's about 300 meters per 100 grams. And I have 3 skeins of this colorway. So when I bought this, which also was quite a while ago, I saw that plenty of people managed to get sweaters out of 3 skeins. And it kind of doesn't make sense because it doesn't have that much yardage, but I mean, Ravelry is awesome for being able to check those things. So I decided to go for it. And when I started the sweater, I was kind of worried about running out of yarn because you never know. But you know what? I think I'm in the clear. So this is the Line of Shapes sweater. And if you look at this from like everything besides this first sleeve, and I have quite a bit of body done. It's just all crinkled up and rolling and stuff. All of this has been knit out of the first skein of that yarn. So I don't know what kind of magic is happening here, but I feel like I'm not going to run out of yarn. So this is it. Like I said, the Line of Shapes, it has a beautiful lace pattern on the front, which really is only going to start looking nice once I block this thing. And what I've done since last week is I have finished the first skein. So I've added, I don't know, not quite 4 inches on the body. And then once that first skein was finished, I decided to pick up for the sleeve yesterday. And yeah, I have about half a sleeve. So this is where we are with the first sleeve. And you know what? I was so dreading working the sleeves and picking up the stitches, and once I did, this has just become so much fun. I don't know why. I was just in such a knitting slump, and as soon as I changed things up and changed from the beautiful body pattern, which is fine and fun to knit, but I just had to do something different, and I started the sleeve yesterday and just been whizzing round and round with my tiny needle, and I'm really enjoying it. So I feel like I'm finally making progress on this. This sleeve goes to my elbow about now. And because, of course, I'm kind of careful with my yarn management, and because I kind of like shorter sleeves, I think I'm going to go for like a 3/4 length for these sleeves. So I'm making progress at last. Finally, something is happening. And I mean, this yarn is just so beautiful. This is definitely not going to be a very soft sweater. It's definitely a very woolly yarn, not to say scratchy. I mean, I like it, but it's not for someone who is sensitive. But I really like it. It's beautiful. Like, it's got all these heathers, and you can see it's not super even. Every now and then there's like a thicker bit, and sometimes I pull out some fibers, but mostly I've just been leaving it as is. And I mean, it is wool. It comes from a sheep, so it doesn't have to be perfectly even for me to love it. And you can already tell there's a bit of like a halo forming, and yeah, I really like it. So that is my second big sweater project. And yeah, I'm not sure. Part of me thinks I'm a bit out of the knitting mojo because I'm working on all these big projects, but at the same time, I do really enjoy getting progress on these done, and I do want these to wear this winter, and it's already January. So yeah, anyways, that is where we are. I'm kind of ignoring a couple of my other works in progress right now, but I think that's just fair enough because, as I mentioned, my knitting is all over the place already, so there's no point in stressing out about other things that I should be doing because, after all, it really just should be fun, shouldn't it? So that's what I've been knitting on. I have also finished one bobbin of a bigger spinning project. So the spinning wheel that I use is an Ashford eSpinner 3 in case you're interested. I have sold my Bliss wheel, so at the moment I'm only working on the eSpinner. Not sure how I feel about that. I am kind of thinking about getting another wheel at some point, but I'm just not making any decisions right now. And on this bobbin, I have the first out of 4 100-gram bits of German fiber that is eventually going to become a sweater project. So the fiber that I'm using is from a German farm, actually not too far from here. And I think they have German merino, so it's completely German fiber, which I love. It's local fiber, it's non-superwash, of course. And German merino isn't super soft. So if you think merino, then German merino is not really typically what you think about. But it's a really nice fiber. And what I've been doing with it, you can see it has this beautiful heathered sort of light pink color. It's kind of similar to this, but a little bit lighter. And I've been spinning this semi-woolen or semi-worsted, I'm not sure of the correct terminology, but essentially it is kind of a woolen prep, but I have been spinning it more worsted, even though I haven't been flattening all the fibers. So it's beautifully lofty and I really, really like it. For some reason though, this has taken me forever. I've spun this first bobbin within, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks, and I have 3 more to go. So I don't know why. I'm spinning it kind of fine, and I'm still not decided whether I'm going to do a 2 or a 3 ply with it. If I do end up doing a 3 ply, which I would do as a chain ply, then of course that would limit my yardage quite a bit. I think I want to do 2 ply, which is why I've decided to just spin 100 grams onto each bobbin, and then I can just ply 2 bobbins together and then do the same thing all over again. So yeah, that is my spinning project. I don't know, it's just not going super fast, and when you take a long time, or at least when I take a long time with spinning something, then usually my consistency gets worse because of course it just changes over time. And I know you can do spinner's control cards and you can be really, really technical, but I kind of don't enjoy being overly technical with my spinning, because if I'm constantly just comparing to my spinner's control card, that kind of takes the relaxation of spinning out of it for me. But anyways, this is definitely going to be a more long-term project, and if I do ever finish it, I think it's going to be a really lovely yarn. Like, I don't even know why, I haven't even spun a sample, but I just feel like this is going to be a really beautiful yarn. So yeah, that's what I've been doing in terms of spinning. And now, last but not least, I have a little bit of unexpected stash acquisition with a really cute story behind it. So you may remember that, when was it? Christmas 2018, I gave both of my sisters a sweater. And I started knitting them in August of 2018, so it was kind of a long-term project. And I knit both of them the pavement sweater. I also knit a pavement sweater for myself. I think I actually have knit 2 now, so I have knit 4 pavement sweaters in my life. And the pavement is a pattern by Vera Valimaki. It's a really, really pretty sweater, but 4 times. I was so happy to have those done, and I didn't make them sweaters last Christmas. Then my sister called me the other day, and she was like, I have to tell you something. I've done something terrible. Something went so wrong. And of course, you can guess where this ended. Long story short, my little sister, she's so knit-worthy, and I know how much she loves that sweater. And she's currently actually in the UK, and she even didn't bring it there because she didn't want to ruin it. She didn't want to maybe felt it in the wash when she wasn't at her home. And yeah, I know, like, she really loved that sweater. So then when she came home for Christmas, she wore it and loved it, and told everyone apparently about it, and decided to bring it to the UK. And then she washed it. It was a superwash yarn, which apparently you're supposed to be able to wash at 30 degrees, but she put it in like a regular washing cycle with everything else at a 40-degree cycle. And she says it's not even a baby sweater now. It is completely ruined, and she was so sad about it. So I decided to knit her a new one. So originally I really wanted to use something from stash because I have so much yarn in my stash and I have quite a few options, and I showed her a couple of options that I could do for her sweater, especially because she wasn't really too fussed about the color. But then again, most of my yarn is not the softest yarn, and I know that the yarn that I used previously was a super soft and cuddly yarn. It's a superwash merino wool, and she is sensitive, and in the end I really didn't want to spend all the time making her another sweater, and then in the end she won't like it as much because maybe it's just a little bit scratchier. So what did I do? I ended up pretty much buying her the exact same yarn that I used for her first sweater. I'm not going to take it out of the bag because it's just such, like, it's packed away so nicely. But this is, it used to be Fair Alpaca, but they have since changed their name to Hansa Farm. And I've talked about them in the past. It's a company that they have like an alpaca, cashmere, and I think a merino yarn, possibly also some mohair. And they source it in pretty big quantities. So you can't buy like a single skein, but I think you can get either like 300-gram increments or 500-gram increments of one colorway, and that kind of makes it more affordable. It's an organic, like certified yarn, and yeah, I think it's a pretty interesting company. I used this yarn for both of my sister's sweaters, and it held up really well, apparently, besides if you wash it at 40 degrees, which that is not the fault of the yarn. I mean, that is definitely the error of my sister, which is fine. That can happen to all of us. So she really wanted the same color that I had already made her, and I was like, oh no, I can't face it. So we got a slightly different one, even though I feel like it looks exactly the same. So she will definitely like it. This is Baby Merino Sport Superwash. So it's 100% superwash yarn. It comes in 50-gram balls, and I know that I can get a sweater out of 6 balls for her. And in terms of the pattern, either I will make the pavement again, and I'm kind of dreading it, or we looked at a couple of patterns, and another one that she liked and that I have already in my library is a new sweater, or relatively new sweater, by Along Avec Anna. I'm actually not sure about the name. I'm really sorry. It's a white top-down sweater. I think she may have used mohair, and it's just a similar fit, because my sister, she wants a sweater with a wide neckline and kind of fitted sleeves, like 3/4 length sleeves, and that also kind of fit the bill. So it's going to be one of those two. And yeah, who knows when I'm going to start that. Part of me thinks I should start it right away, because then I'll have it done and she will love it, and it shouldn't take too long. But then my knitting mojo is already not too high, so I'm not sure if adding like a gift knit, which is a sweater, is a great idea right now. So we will see about that, but I got the yarn, and I'm sure whenever I make this for my sister, she will love it. So yeah, that is my only acquisition for this week. I'm trying to knit more from stash, and like I said, I would have loved to use something from stash, but in the end, I figure if I'm going to give something to her and then she pretends to like it, but she doesn't like it as much as the old one, then that's not really worth it either, is it? So yeah, that is that. And that's it in terms of my knitting content for this show. I think that's... Sorry, I'm kind of out of breath today and I'm a little bit all over. I think I desperately need that coffee now. If this has been somewhat slower or I've been more out of it than usual, then I'm sorry. I'm just really tired. But yeah, that's pretty much it. There's nothing exciting to write home about regarding life in general. It's been basically the same old, back to work, back to reality, but it's been okay. It's been fun, and today the weather is really, really nice. So I think as soon as I'm done with podcasting, we're going to spend some time outside, and hopefully that will wake me up a little bit. So thank you so much for watching and sticking with me. I will definitely see you again next week, because I have a fun single weekend planned, which will give me lots of time to knit and podcast and do all the yarny things. So until then, thank you so much for watching. I will see you very, very soon. Happy knitting. Bye.